The following is an article from the Reformed Presbyterian, Volume 2, published in May of 1838. The article is entitled, Jephthah's Vow. And a note from the editor. The following essay presents one of the three general views taken by expositors of the vexed question respecting Jephthah's vow and the sacrifice of his daughter. Some maintain that he actually offered her up a burnt offering. Others consider his vow to have been rash and inconsiderate and of course not binding, and that therefore he did not act according to it. A third class take the ground of our correspondent, considering the vow a proper one and that it was fulfilled to the letter. The brevity of many parts of sacred history leaves some subjects in considerable obscurity, which has occasioned diversity of sentiment respecting them. This is the case with Jephthah's vow. That it was rash and inconsiderate, as many have supposed, is what I am by no means prepared to admit. It is said a dog or some other unclean creature unlawful to be offered in sacrifice might have met him. According to this view, the vow was undoubtedly rash and inconsiderate, but I consider the supposition wholly inadmissible. One that is associated with such worthies as Samson and Gideon and David and Samuel could not be so ignorant of the Scriptures, nor chargeable with conduct worthy of the rankest heathen. On the contrary, Jephthah anticipated no unclean creature, nor any creature to meet him inferior to a human being. The very phraseology of the text is full to the purpose, quote, cometh forth to meet me, unquote. This is the action of a rational being, proceeding from judgment and reflection. The pronominal adjective ought not therefore to have been neuter, but personal, whosoever. It may be objected, if a human being was anticipated, how will he be vindicated in vowing to offer up a human sacrifice for a burnt offering? That he did so is utterly refused. This idea, I grant, is conveyed in the language of our translation, but no such idea is conveyed by the original, which ought to be rendered thus, quote, whosoever cometh forth to meet me shall surely be the Lord's, and I will offer him a burnt offering, unquote. Offer him is the same as offer to him, that is, to the Lord. A similar mode of expression will be found in the following passages: Genesis 37, verse 14, Joshua 15, verse 19, 1 Samuel 24, verse 19, Job 15, 21, and Job 31, verse 37, as well as Isaiah 42, verse 16. It is evident, therefore, that Jephthah vowed two things. Number one, that whosoever came forth of his house to congratulate him on the success of his expedition would be devoted to the Lord. Number two, that he would offer to the Lord a burnt offering as a grateful return for his successful undertaking, and that he did so there is no reason to doubt. Nor is there the least ground to suppose that he sacrificed his daughter, as will evidently appear from the following considerations. In verse 37, she asks permission to go 2 months to the mountains with her companions to bewail her virginity. But were she to be sacrificed, it would be to bewail her death and not her virginity. It is farther said in verse 40 that the daughters of Israel went 4 days in the year, year after year, to lament the daughter of Jephthah. Instead of lament, it ought to be translated to speak with. Montanus renders the original by ad alloquendum, literally to speak to. This is most decisive upon the subject of her not having been sacrificed, for had she been so, conference with her had been utterly impossible. But on the other hand, if she were not sacrificed, it may be said, why did her father so much lament her fate? I know no reason, but because sterility in Israel was so much regarded as a ground of reproach, as is well shown in the following passage in Poole on Isaiah 4, verse 1, quote, virginity, says that respectable writer, was esteemed a reproach, especially among that people, because it was a token of contempt from men and of the curse of God. Children, the usual fruit of marriage, being both an honor to their parents before men and a great blessing of God, especially to that people, from some of whose loins the Messiah was to spring, unquote. It may be an additional ground of lamentation that she was his only child, and that hereby there was no one to perpetuate his name. But it may perhaps be objected that the circumstance of her being devoted to the Lord did not require perpetual celibacy. Samuel was so devoted, yet he entered into the nuptial relation. I can assign no other reason than this, that Jephthah must have viewed the matter much in the same light in which Paul did in 1 Corinthians 7, verse 34, quote, there is difference between a wife and a virgin. The unmarried woman careth for the things of the Lord, that she may be holy, both in body and spirit. But she that is married careth for the things of the world, how she may please her husband, unquote. The last 10 verses of this chapter may be considered a good illustration of Jephthah's view of the matter. The view taken in this short essay is not novel. The same is given by Bell of Glasgow in his notes on Vitius Irenicum, page 219, as well as Parkhurst's Hebrew lexicon under the word oleth, in page 527.